All right, and welcome, Lisa. Go ahead and kick it off.
Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. We will not have a recap tonight. We will be reading the blue page, which will be screen shared. And I'm sorry. That's going to give us a little history about the chapter. We're going to be starting our study tonight on page 17, the beginning of There is a Solution, and end on page 19, which ends with taking up the beds and walking again, and will be read by Nancy. Are there any announcements?
Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and so glad that all of you are with us tonight. So, here's what I'm going to do. Are you ready? Welcome, Lisa. Welcome to this portion of the service in the meeting and being one of our co-hosts and presenters of the Big Book Study. So glad to have you stepping into this, and you're already a natural because it was a good ad-lib there. Not really many announcements. I mean, Aaron's flying in to go to the state convention with me next week. If you happen to be in the state of Tennessee next weekend, in the Nashville area, let me know. Come visit us at the Tennessee State Convention put on by Area 64. We have... Trish, what's the date on our next group, Conscience, which will be next month before we go into assembly? I want to say it's like the 8th or 11th or something.
November 9th, it's a Sunday night.
Okay. And if you don't happen to be a home group member, but you'd like to see how this group operates, you are welcome to come join us. But if you're not a registered home group member, you can observe only. If you become a home group member, you can come have a voice in how we do things. So it's pretty simple. And moving right along with our big book study. Again, good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. And welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Lisa. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing is to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised. I'd just like to mention too, we got a couple other co-hosts tonight, like Larry, who's admitting people and learning a little bit about what we do. So thank you for that, Larry.
Okay.
From the
forward.
There you go.
To the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your posture and breath, breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And I haven't done this for a while, so I'm going to do it now. Oh, when the monks come marching in. Enjoy your time with God, folks. And on your screen in front of you is our family's Foglight Prayer. If you'd like to join us in that, you are more than welcome to. Foglight Prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a foglight, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Jim.
You're muted, Jim.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow travelers. My name is Jim F., and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Stephanie to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Stephanie.
I am Stephanie, recovered grateful alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Back
Thank you.
There you go, Jim.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
We got a couple people there. Welcome, Ben, and I saw somebody else earlier, but I don't see them now. Glad to have you with us tonight. Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Okay. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? If you should require a big book of your own, we have a large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable. And please remember to practice our seventh tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jim. Excellent. And everybody welcome Jim into service as well. He will be our meeting secretary for the next 12 weeks. So glad to have you, my friend. And thank you, Steph, for reading the recovered statement. From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism in a program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 1. Tonight we'll be reviewing Tradition 2, and that will be read by Trish and Jimmy. Tonight, please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm going to read the short form and the long form, and then Jimmy will come in and share his experience, strength, and hope with on the tradition. So, Tradition 2, short form. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. And the long form, which is shorter than the short form, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience.
Hi, I'm Jimmy, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And thank you, Trish, for reading that for me. On some of these traditions, it just takes me back to when I got here, and some of the things I thought that was going on with AA, even though I knew nothing about AA. My first time we ever had an in-person meeting, I thought that the guy that was chairing that meeting was, in charge of the meeting. I thought he governed us. I really did. And I didn't ask anybody really about it. I left after that meeting thinking, that he was in charge, that, he got the money and then with the basket went around and he got his piece and everything was, structured that way. It was, I didn't have anything really to do with the God part. But, it's amazing as we do work these steps, things do start changing. And then as you do get a home group and you start getting more involved in AA, you do start learning more about it. And I had been sober for 2 months. And there are a lot of men that came to one of our meetings that had to get a piece of paper signed. And I remember the guy said to me, "You signed that man's piece of paper." And I said, "Well, I didn't chair this meeting." He said, "Don't matter. You were at the meeting. We're not governed." And, as I kept coming back, I started learning things about it. Different structures of votes and, ranging from meetings to area to district to all sorts of things that do happen. And the 12 and 12, they do talk, like the new, like when this started, you had men that were founders of meetings. Meeting I went to has already existed. I've never been at a meeting where it was, we're starting a new meeting, we're going to call it this, and we're going to meet here, and I've never seen that. And a lot of these, men and women have had to start meetings in their areas. I mean, I live in a suburb of Chicago. There's 3,000 meetings a week in a 50-mile radius of me. There's no shortage of meetings. I do know there are different meetings that are structured differently, and I'm sure that was brought about by the first 5-10 people that showed up, in a group conscious, and they had to vote for that. I know if I'm in a meeting now, if there's something in me that if I got some ego or some self in me, I'm not going to probably want to vote, or I'm not going to be fully with having God as the authority of this meeting and of this place. And but in my home group, how it's structured, I would hope that if you guys were to come up and visit there, the way it is structured, that you would know that it's centered around God, and that's what we are trying to do. And every 3 months, we change all the members, except for the treasurer and the secretary. They have a longer run, but the rest of them, we rotate those out. And I think even our founder, Bill Wilson, touched on that, in a talk I think he gave in 1962. It's like that. Well, it's 12 and 12. That's where we get the bleeding deacons and the elder statesmen. And thank God for not the old timers, the guys that have the wisdom and the patience to maybe put in their 2 cents and settle some of us young guys down, or to say it don't work that way. And so thank God for the traditions. They're very important. I didn't know how important they were until I started actually, until Jamie asked me to do this, and I started actually looking into them. So that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Trish and Jimmy. Well done. Excellent. Thank you so much. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of those things that we often hear is there are no musts in the program. And Bill is going to come in and tell us what it has to say on page 73 in the 5th paragraph about a must. Welcome, Bill.
Bill Alcoholic, we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long and happily in this world.
Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book Study Guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we don't have a recap. We'll be reading from a blue page, which will be screen shared. That will tell us a little bit of history about the new chapter we're starting. And I will be reading that, followed by our study portion, which would be read by Nancy.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back where our study portion by Nancy began. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what we just read. If you've had a spiritual experience with this information, please, by all means, feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you will hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished, and you should be able to see, if you're in the gallery view, see the timer as well.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study times.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous: sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. You gonna give it a shot, Lisa?
Yeah, why the heck?
All right.
And how we arrived at this point. We didn't just magically open to the middle of the book and start. This meeting started in person in 2020 at Jamie's house, and when COVID hit, it went to Zoom and remained that way. This is a 96-week Big Book study. We're in our 5th year of being a group and our 4th season going through the book. We study with the question and answer format, starting at the title page through page 164. We read through the preface, the foreword, the doctor's opinion, which tells us some history and about our threefold disease. We read Bill's story, which is a classic 12-step call. We do spend 4 weeks on the traditions, 3 traditions a week. And we read the spiritual experience 4 times, 3 times in our readings when the asterisks refer to it. And our final week of the study, we close the season out with the spiritual experience. And I actually forgot, we also read Dr. Bob's Nightmare. In the spiritual experience, it's very important to find that the the spiritual, to get, find the God of our understanding. Very important to look at that. And this reading this spiritual experience helps us to find our own higher power. And that's it. Thanks.
Well done, Lisa. Well done. Much appreciated. Before we begin the actually no recap tonight. Before we begin the blue page, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you'd like to be one of our answer readers. And once again, please be aware the first hour and a half of this meeting is recorded in audio only, so we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel, and it is great to be able to share. You got a question, Jim, before? Oh, okay. I'm going to screen share the blue page, what we call the blue page, and let me get to it here. Whoops, wrong one. And this comes from the study guide that we use. So you guys don't have this in your book, but you will definitely see it here. And Lisa is going to read it to us. And it's an introduction to Chapter 2.
As we study Chapter 2, there is a solution. We learn what the solution, what the solution is to that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We will also learn who gave us this information and why they gave it to us. In addition, we will find that clear-cut directions for the actions we must take to be assured that we will join the first 100 as recovered alcoholics. We will learn the difference between the fellowship and the program. We will learn that although we share a common problem, that in itself will not produce the solution. We will learn some very real truths about alcoholism. We will also learn that although an alcoholic cannot control the amount he drinks once he has taken the first few drinks because of the physical sensitivity to alcohol, that is not the real problem. The physical allergy is not what drives us to Alcoholics Anonymous for help. The real problem centers in the mind, because the real alcoholic is unable to manage his most earnest decision to never take another drink. But drinking is not the main problem of the chronic alcoholic. Alcoholics drink and do so better than almost everybody else. Stopping is not the problem. Every alcoholic has stopped many times. The real problem of the chronic alcoholic is that we cannot stay stopped. The real alcoholic mind is one that does not have sufficient willpower to manage the decision to stay stopped. That produces the insidious insanity that leads us to that first drink. Lacking willpower to manage a decision to not take the first drink mandates that hopeless alcoholic find a higher power that will remove the need to try to manage a decision to never drink again. We will also learn something of the 3 types of drinkers. There are the moderate drinkers who would never think about coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. They can take it or leave it alone. Then there are the hard drinkers. They may need to come to Alcoholics Anonymous to learn that they are not alcoholics. Given a good reason, they can drink like moderate drinkers or abstain completely if they choose. But the real or chronic alcoholic is totally powerless over alcohol. We can neither control the amount we drink, nor do we have the power to manage a decision to not ever drink again. Alcoholics Anonymous is for the real alcoholic only. We will learn more about that when we study the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. So is there a solution? Let's find out.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And just a quick verbal note for everybody. We introduce every chapter that we do with a blue page like that to help us understand what the chapter is really all about. So, Nancy, welcome. And we could use one more hand if someone's willing to be an answer reader. Come on in, Nancy.
Okay, Nancy Alcoholic. Chapter 2, there's a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as we are. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved a great problem. We are average Americans. All sectors of the country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We are like the passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessels from stewards to captain's table. Unlike the feeling of the ship's passenger, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go our own individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. A tremendous fact for everyone of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer alcoholism. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it an illness, involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurities, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor. But the ex-problem drinker who has found the solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, what his whole opponent shouts at the new prospect, that he is a man with real answers, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful. But there are no fees to pay, no access to crime, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And folks, we're going to go right back to the beginning of the chapter on page 17. Our batting order tonight is going to be Linda, Nancy, Jim, William, and our own kosher dill pickle, Stephanie. and Lisa will come in intermittently with about 7 comments throughout this portion as well. So we're going to kick it off. Good evening, Miss Linda, and welcome. What do we know? Oh, all of you have to unmute. Thank you. Linda, your question is, what do we know?
Oh, we of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill.
Thank you. Nancy, your question is, what have they done? 2 sentences, please.
Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the great problem.
Thank you. Jim, welcome, sir. Again, who are we? Members of Alcoholics Anonymous. 2 sentences, please.
We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds.
Thank you. And Sir William, good to have you with us tonight, my friend. Without AA, would we have known each other?
Happy to be here. William Alcoholics. We are people who normally would not mix.
Thank you.
And I have a comment. Without Zoom, would we have known each other?
Definitely not. And Stephanie, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. What do recovered alcoholics share?
But there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful.
Thank you.
And I have 2 comments. Since the writing of this book, we have added the virtual world to our fellowship as well. Are we continuing with the meetings before and after the meeting to support and fellowship one another virtually? And from the forward to the 4th edition, in any meeting, anywhere, AAs share experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Modem to modem or face to face, AAs speak the language of the heart in all of its power and simplicity.
Thank you so much. And Miss Linda, coming back to you. Who are we like?
We are like the passengers of a great liner, the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel, from steerage to captain's table.
Thank you. Nancy, how are we unlike them?
Unlike the feelings of the ship's passenger, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways.
Thank you. And Jim, coming to you, sir. What feeling have we shared?
The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us.
Thank you. William, will the common problem keep us together?
But that is so, would never have held us together as we are now joined it.
Thank you.
And another comment. This is where we go from fellowship to spiritual solution, as outlined in the Big Book, also known as the Program of Recovery.
Thank you. And Stephanie, what tremendous fact is it that keeps us together?
The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution.
Thank you. Linda, coming back to you with a 2-part question. A, what can we absolutely agree? And B, what can we join in?
We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action.
Coming in with a comment. The virtual world has allowed us to carry the message to others in a way we never could before, sharing the spiritual solution to bring about recovery from alcoholism. This truly makes us members of the Worldwide Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Thank you, Lisa. And Nancy, where do we find this important information?
This is the greatness this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
Thank you. Jim, is the effect of our illness limited to just the alcoholic?
An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it in an illness, involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can.
Thank you. William, what are our feelings for a cancer patient?
If a person has cancer, all are sorry for them, and no one is angry or hurt.
Thank you. Stephanie, what goes with the alcoholic illness?
But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life.
Thank you. And Linda, coming back to you, who does it affect?
It engulfs all those whose lives touch the sufferers.
Thank you. Nancy, what does it bring to all those affected by alcoholism?
It breeds misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list.
And another comment. How does this compare to the way it was with your family and everyone involved in your life?
Thank you. And Jim, coming to you, sir. What is our hope?
We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or may be affected.
Thank you. William, is this for just a few?
There's many.
Thank you. Stephanie, are we willing to discuss our situation with professionals or even those who are close to us? Read the entire paragraph, please.
Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor.
Thank you. Hey, donor could apply too. Linda, coming back to you. What can the recovered alcoholic do?
But the ex-problem drinker who has found a solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours.
Thank you. And Nancy, when can some progress be made with the suffering alcoholic?
Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished.
Okay. And Jim, what is it that the recovered alcoholic brings to the suffering alcoholic? A really long sentence.
That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective.
And our last comment of the night. Would this describe the qualifications of a sponsor?
And William, you get the final question of the night. What happens after the recovered alcoholic tells his story to the suffering alcoholic?
The dead come alive. After such an approach, many takes up their bed and walk again.
Thank you, everybody. Excellent. And I'd like to give Lisa a big hand. She did a great job. So you only have to go through it for another 11 weeks, my friend. Actually, you'll have some off weeks with that, so it's all good. And now the meeting is open for sharing, folks, for experience with this reading, experience strength and hope, spiritual experience through this work. And we would love to hear from you. So don't be shy, because it's your meeting and we still have like 45 minutes to go. So plenty of time. We'd love to hear from you.
My name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic.
And welcome.
Hi, I like There's a Solution because it talks about us, and about how we're passengers on a ship, a sinking ship at that, and then the camaraderie. We're so happy that we finally got on this ship of safety, and it says that, normally we wouldn't mix, which is true. I've heard some people say, oh, I wouldn't even have drank with that person. So I let you know, no, we wouldn't normally mix, but we have a common bond, our disease, and it says it right there. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a common problem, but then they're also talking about the common solution, and then I like what it says. It talks about the family too. It talks about the alcoholic and it goes into the family. It talks about the financial insecurity. It talks about the anger and the hurt. It really gets into it very quickly. It goes through different aspects. And I like the part. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. And that's right there, working with others. Who can better help an alcoholic but a recovering alcoholic? Who's going to understand and be able to identify? Not a psychiatrist with a whole prescription for pills. Not somebody, some orderly that's going to put a straitjacket on you and put you in a padded room. Not some person of the law that's going to just lock you up into a jail cell. The person that's going to be able to really help you and to understand those highs and lows and those mood swings, and just that the belligerence of an alcoholic, the defiance of an alcoholic, the denial of an alcoholic, the delusional part of an alcoholic, that problem drinker, you call him an ex-problem drinker, that recovered alcoholic, will be able to understand all of that and let them know it's okay. This is all a part of recovery. But I like this There's a Solution because it really dives into it very quickly. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for being here. And Fireman, good to see you, my friend. Come on in.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Rick Alcoholic. Yeah, on page 17, that second paragraph, not the whole thing, but just about the whole thing. We are average Americans, all sections of the country, and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds and intelligence. We are people who would normally not mix, but there exists among us a friendliness and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. And then it says that we are like the passengers of a sinking ship who bond in order to survive. But unlike them, we stick together for good. I am a man that I got to college in the early 70s, and I remember I felt like I was maybe in a prison. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be with my friends who worked full-time jobs and drove the muscle cars of the day. That's what I wanted, and I left. I left within 2 or 3 months, and did find jobs and went to work. And later on in the 70s, did land my career as a firefighter. And then my drinking went on and on and on, never jeopardizing my career, my family. They kept me, and but anyways, I'm going to talk about coming to this program and how I see it working. You know, my first sponsor is a man. He's the only one that was on my list to ask to be my sponsor back in the day, and but I wouldn't approach him. He walked up to me one day after the meeting and says, "Look, you need a sponsor, man. You need a sponsor, and I'm willing to sponsor you." This was a UMass professor. And I said, "Sure." I figured he'd tell me that, listen, you need to go finish doing what you're doing because you're not listening, you're not doing any of it. And he never did. He kept me. To me, he was my Bill Wilson. His name is Bill Campbell. He was my Bill Wilson. When we hung around one alcoholic talking to another, we weren't drinking. And when I was talking with him, I was spending a day with him, sometimes an evening with him, and not feeling like I needed to leave to go get a drink. That's what this man did for me. Something about him, you know. Today, I sponsor guys. I got guys who, 3 of them are out of a men's living sober house. Another one has a PhD, a master's, and a doctor's degree. Another one has 2 masters. and we go back and forth about this. This is, you guys pick me. I don't know why, you know. But what I'm saying here is how we will bond together when we realize this is something we want. I even had the opportunity to take a lady through the steps. A lady with many more years than I. Why did she ask me? I don't know. She told me, but I did it. Today I'm very good friends with her. So yes, my wife knows her. I just love what this program does for me, and I love that, you know, how I've been invited to be part of a men's living sober house, been given a key, go and talk to guys, and not be on the staff, just be involved there. Guys I would have never mixed with in the past. Guys who are in and out of the program, guys who are in and out of prison. God is at work here. That I feel. So, yeah, I was going to stop rambling anyways. Good timing. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. So good to see you. Always good to have you. Bill, come on in, my friend. Welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Pickles, and Bill Alcoholic. And I got here, I was a liar, a cheat, a thief, and a drunkard, and now I'm not a drunkard. But I have made some progress on the others. Yeah, that line, he has no attitude holier than thou. Nothing whatever except a sincere desire to be helpful. That there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. The idea of a sponsor, we do have a new man here, at least that I'm aware of, not be named. The goal of the sponsor is to take us through the steps. Although my sponsor immediately got me involved in service, I was a very lucky guy. I found myself standing outside of the morning spiritual on Sunday at 11 a.m. introducing myself to all the alcoholics as they came in. After 30 days, I was informed that I was now going to be the cookie guy. I brought cookies every Sunday, did that for about a month, and then I was informed that I was now the cake person. Of course, this is California. And I brought a cake every Sunday morning, and I did that for a month, and then I was informed that I was going to chair the meeting for a month. So I got fast fast-tracked into this deal through service. So I hope everybody's as lucky as I was. I'll keep coming back. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Mr. Pickles.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you. Glad you're feeling well. And Jimmy, come on in.
Hi, I'm Jimmy, and I'm an alcoholic. And, you know, when they were talking about the people we had hurt in there, you know, I remember my parents wouldn't answer the door one time when I got to their house because I was carrying a tea bottle, and I thought that it looked like I had mixed my drink right, but it was clear because I forgot to put tea in it. And, you know, so they didn't answer the door because they didn't want to deal with me. You know, I put them through a lot. You know, I remember my middle daughter. She'd come home. She was in the army, and we watched her son and watched the grandson. And so she'd come home, and she wanted to go out to lunch with a younger sister. And I overheard her say, "Well, I can't leave Dad home alone with them, because I don't trust them." And you know, while everyone was home, they trusted me, but they didn't trust me to not drink while they left. And you know, that was pretty sad. And so yeah, you know, I knew I needed to come to AA. I just fought it with all I had in me, but I did make it to AA. And you know, that one meeting where them guys, there was 10 of them, and you know, they read the big book, and I didn't read that night. I didn't do anything that night, but I did share a little about myself at the end. But the things that men shared about themselves, you know, openly, that really blew me away. And that these men were willing to tell me some things about their life and in their past that I could relate to and give me just a little bit of hope that, you know, I wasn't alone, and that these guys thought like me. And you know, that started my road to recovery. Got a sponsor and started working steps. But you know, it amazes me that the non-judgment that is in AA. And you know, I thought that I was, you know, that I was the only one that did that. Till two of the guys in that meeting that night, I thought, well, I did that. You know, and that starts helping. Well, that helped me tremendously. The one young man that come over and shook my hand, the first guy, sit next to me, and you know, me and him are still really good friends. And you know, I've got a ton of friends here. I've got an army of men and women, you know, in my corner that I never thought could be possible. But I did walk through the doors of AA. Thought my life was over when I did that, but it was really just starting. So that's all I got. Love you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Jimmy, and thanks for being our traditionalist from the road, you road warrior. And William, come on in, my friend. Good to see you.
My name is William Alcoholic. Whenever we read stuff like this, give me time to reflect, you know what I mean, about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. And during the time whenever, before they found AA came about, it was like a pandemic for alcoholism, you know. And Dr. Sipwood says in his thing, said, those who stopped will come to the front line with me, and you will need to pray, you know, and stuff like that. And after Bill got on to what was going on, to pass it on, and we talked about the common bond, you know, because alcoholism is an equal opportunity disease that don't discriminate, and I learned that by showing up. So after Bill got it, he passed on to Dr. Bob, and Dr. Bob, who has been exposed to a whole lot of help. But he said, here's a man that knows what he was talking about. And what Bill was talking in the first person, talking about alcoholism, you know. And so that's what happened to me, you know. I remember before I learned anything about alcoholism, you know, I had pretty good insurance. Most of my working career, I had pretty good insurance. And I had went to the psychiatrist, and like they say, psychiatrists have no opinion of us, you know. So I went to the why. I learned later on why though. Yeah, I went to the psychiatrist, you know, and I was talking to him because something was wrong with me, and I just didn't know what it was, you know. So I went to him, and he put me on Thorazine. You know, I never forget he put me on Thorazine, man. I took one of those and it looked like I just went crazy, man. So I wouldn't take that, you know, anymore, you know. But whenever I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and heard other people sharing it, another thing that I related to, you know, I would travel a lot. I had people down south, people in Chicago, all over. And early on in sobriety, when I stepped in this side of the room, I felt uncomfortable. You know, I felt uncomfortable, you know. But whenever they started talking, they was talking about all these other things that was going on in their lives, you know. So it made me feel uncomfortable. When they started talking about alcoholism, I feel right at home, and that's the way it is today. Anytime I go to a meeting and they start talking about alcoholism, I know I'm at home, you know. And those are the things with the spiritual program now, you know. When I'm spiritual fit, I can go in place in the world I want to. And one thing I like about it, right? When they wrote this book, and it's amazing how they wrote this book. So he said, you may be one person with this book in your hand, but you can stay sober, but look for somebody else to help. You know what I mean? So all this stuff come together whenever I begin to read this and begin to get understanding. And that's so true. They put the stories in the back of the book, and they got information like this up front. You know what I mean? Up front for you to identify what it is. Because I didn't know. I didn't know the effect I had on my family. I didn't know the effect that I had with my coworkers or anybody that I was around. Until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, they said I had a disease, and there was a spiritual remedy to that disease. And one thing, like they say, know your prospect. My sponsor was to do what I need right away. My sponsor put me in service right away. That's why I said, if you have one day sober, you can show somebody what a bathroom is, to say hello to them, make them a cup of coffee, you know, and how you do this spiritual. Freely give what's so freely given to you. Now, if you don't feel like you freely give it a practice until you do, without looking for anything back, you know. So I'm grateful to be here and get a chance to go through this stuff and reflect on it, how I did in my life and the way it came about, you know. So thank you.
Thank you so much, William. Excuse me. Have a great night, my friend. Jim, come on in. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, fellow travelers. Jim F., an alcoholic. Really good to be with you. Man, what a powerful read this is. And it's so powerful to go, for me, it's so powerful to go through the big book and do the question and answer period after we've read something, because it really seals home just what the first 100 members were talking about. Because, you know, I could read the full paragraph at home and fall asleep while reading it, and then not remember what it was all about. The comprehension wasn't necessarily there. And working with you folks, you fellow travelers, the comprehension comes forward. And, you know, reading what we read, it made me think of a meeting I went to on a regular basis on Sunday afternoons at 4 p.m. There was a whole group of us that got together for a 12 and 12 study at the Fellowship Hall. And these guys, I wouldn't have hung out with them. You know, Larry was a Vietnam veteran, and he was an insurance guy. I was an insurance guy, but, you know, I wasn't a Vietnam guy. But, and then there was some other men in there. My sponsor was there, and him and I probably wouldn't have hung out together. There's probably no way. But, you know, he made me laugh, man. He had something I wanted. I hadn't laughed for a long time when I got here. And he had the joy of living. And he was serious about the disease of alcoholism. That attracted me as well. And he had fun, but he was serious as a heart attack when it came to the disease aspect of alcoholism. And that's what we're here about. We're here because of this disease. This disease wants to kill me, even though I don't think so. I might just think that this is like having the flu. Yeah, I'll get over it and I'll move on. Everything will be okay. Well, not if you don't take the steps and follow the program of recovery. You may not be okay. You may die out there the next time you go out and experiment. And I don't want to die of this thing. So I keep coming back. And, the nice thing about these studies is you learn something new every time you come. I've read the big book plenty of times. I listen to it on tape all the time. But being here with you guys and hearing you share your experience, and also and then reading it and the question and answer, getting back to Larry, we all had this room. There were guys that would show up. There was a guy showed up, a veteran, who was drunk. He had the DTs. So we all took him down to the VA. Larry knew how to get to the VA, and I drove the guy's car home for him, and Larry drove the guy or whatever we did, and then we took him down to the VA and dropped him off, and he came back for a while, and then, I don't know, something else got more important to him. My point is, don't let your life get in the way of your recovery. Put recovery first and put your life around recovery, and you will be amazed at how things change. Thank you for the meeting. Good to be here.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for your service tonight. And Scuba Pickle, come on in.
Hey, I'm Larry. Hey, Scuba Pickle. When I first got sober, I remember that I had always pretty much had a job throughout my drinking career. Never really lost a job. I quit some jobs, but I never lost a job strictly because of drinking. I was, I probably should have lost some jobs, but I went to jobs when I wasn't exactly sober, but they kept me, and I worked my career, and it seemed to work out. I made good money, but it was after I was retired that my drinking went completely out of style. I just could not hold it together. I drank more and more and more, and other stuff too. But so I lost my first family because of drinking, and I was losing my second family. And I'd heard everybody that was ever around me, and so when I got to AA, I finally lost my second family, and I decided, that it was either go to AA or live on the street. That was my choices pretty much. So I went to AA, and I thought maybe AA could teach me how to drink more responsibly, because I was, not responsible at that time in my drinking. And maybe you all could teach me how to get back to responsible drinking, where I could maybe hold down a small job or something, And it wasn't until I got my first sponsor, that things began to make sense because he had much of the same type of career I did. Although we didn't meet, I was a former union steward in construction, and he was a vice president of a power company. We were way opposites. I would have been his kryptonite, and to Superman, if we were on a job. And but here we were. He was my sponsor, but he retired from working his job, and as soon as he retired, his drinking went out of style. He couldn't. It went. It was like our drinking careers were exactly the same. And when he began to share his story, it was just like, you're telling my story. And I could tell. I was listening to him, and it was like I was hearing my story from his lips. And all of a sudden, it made sense that I wasn't going to be taught how to drink responsibly in this program. And the first thing he did, like some has already said, is he told me, you're going to be in charge of coming to the meetings early, setting up the chairs, and making the coffee. That's your job for the next 3 months. The next thing he did was saying, you're going to come to district with me, and you're going to be in charge of the pink can fund. I mean, it was service, service, service. And I don't know what it was, but I listened. All of a sudden, after him telling his story and how it made sense, I began to listen to him. And I stayed sober, except for one little slip. I've stayed sober 15 years because one man told the story and I understood it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Larry. Glad you are here. And hang on one second, Trish, before I call you in. Welcome, Sheila. We read from page 17 to page 19, pick up their beds and walk again. So, come on in, Trish. Welcome.
I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And, I live in a town or a county where so many people will tell me, Zoom isn't a real meeting. You can't get sober on Zoom. You can't. And I always bring them back to this line. The first one, we are people who normally would not mix. And then bring in the forward to the 4th edition, modem to modem or face to face. AA speak the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity. Zoom saved my life. When COVID hit, I was miserable, broken, not drinking, but not doing real well. And I found my way into Zoom and I found my way into new life. And some people I've talked to around here is like, well, that's great for you. And some just don't want to get on the computer, and so, but that's them. I can't tell them they're doing it wrong because they're doing them. But when I came in here, this paragraph this chapter gave me a whole lot of hope. Just the title of it, There is a Solution. It gave me hope to what was wrong with my life, what my problem was. And I clung to that fellowship. Like so many others, I got involved in a group. I never joined a home group, but they apparently recruited me because after 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, you're our coffee maker. And that was 130 people in the meeting. And that was way back when we had ceramic mugs and ashtrays that all had to be washed. But it got me to meetings, it kept me sober. somebody else had the key and met me there because I was too new. They weren't going to give me the key, and I was good with that. We're like passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue, and yeah, everybody's happy, everybody's partying, everybody's so glad that they're saved. But their joy slowly disappears, and their friendship and their connection slowly disappears because their life goes on the way it was. Our connections goes on because we need each other to continue to live, as the book says, escape from that disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. We stay with each other because we want to support each other and we want the support for ourselves. Because of that common solution. Without that common solution, without other people who spoke my language, I don't know that I would still be here. Because I was surrounded by those disgusted friends who kept saying, you don't drink like a normal person. You need to quit drinking. You get into trouble when you're drinking. And sad, curious parents, concerned parents, they didn't realize that I was drinking or how much I was drinking because I wasn't living at home. But they knew I wasn't talking. They knew I was pulling away, and they knew something was wrong. So they didn't know what was wrong. And yeah, I've been called unapproachable while I was drinking and even in sobriety. But the joy I have, the excitement I have, the life I have, it makes me unapproachable to those who are still drinking if they don't want this way of life. And I understand that. And I don't take it personal when I'm told you're unapproachable, especially if it's somebody who's drinking a whole lot. Because they don't want this way of life. But I keep the door open and I plant those seeds. Let them know there is a way of life, there is a solution if they decide they want it. The ex-problem drinker who has found the solution, armed with the facts about themselves, can win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. I have had those conversations with new alcoholics. And they were able to distinguish whether or not, or determine whether or not they were alcoholic and whether they needed to stay. Some of them did. I've also been on the receiving end of that, where someone in recovery spent hours and hours and hours with me, telling me her story. Until I reached the point where I was willing to go to a meeting and wanted to go to a meeting. And I knew who to call because of those hours she had spent with me a couple of years ago. Because I knew what she was talking about, and I knew that there was hope in her life. There was hope in her story. And when I was ready for a change, she was there for me. And I love the fact at the end where it talks about no fees to pay, no access to crime, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. I wouldn't have wanted to put up with any of that. I certainly was not going to come in. Well, I came in to please another person. I came in to prove to someone I am not an alcoholic. And I hit my 90 days and I was going to go back home and I was going to say, look, I got my 90 days. I am not an alcoholic. And then on day 110, I'm back out there. It's like, whoops, I guess I'm an alcoholic. And that's when I really started getting down into the work. Because I knew I couldn't stay sober just on service and fellowship. I had to find out what these steps were about, and I had to find somebody who could lead me through them. And it took me a while. And I've had more sponsors than I can count on two hands. And we parted ways for lots of different reasons. But I was not going to come in just to people please with somebody, and I was certainly not going to come in if there were any fees that I had to pay. And I was definitely not going to sit through a lecture. But if you were telling me your life story, your experience, because of the solution that you found, I was going to listen to it. Just like those who have told me, I don't want to listen to anything you have to say. And they nod their head and it's like, yeah, I get it. Maybe I'm one of you too. What else can you tell me? Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Trish. Glad you're here. Couldn't do it without you. Good evening, family. My name's Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. I love all the words in this book. All of them. And there was a time that I didn't, because I didn't understand them. And it was my contempt and lack of understanding that was the problem, not the words in the book. I have been blessed to have the same sponsor for the last 35 years. And I've listened to some of you tonight talk about, I got told I was going to, so on and so forth. In 35 years, my sponsor has never told me I had to do anything. He was an example of how to live. And he always gave me options to see for myself and take on the things that I wanted to. In fact, I've taken on things in Alcoholics Anonymous and service commitments, and we always discuss them after the fact. Guess what? He don't have a problem with it. He doesn't say, you dummy, you shouldn't have done that. He's always loved and encouraged me through the process. I remember the first night that I asked him to be my sponsor. He handed me a pamphlet, questions and answers on sponsorship, and asked me to read both sections for those wanting to sponsor and those wanting to be sponsored, to give me an understanding about what I was asking. And then we sat and we talked in his van for about 4 hours. And what he asked me where I thought I was in the steps, and then he sat down and told me his experience with all 12 steps. My sponsor and I were nothing alike when we met, except for the fact that we went to meetings, smoked cigarettes, and liked to shoot pool. That's what we had in common. And of course, alcoholism. And yet through the years, I have become so much like him by the example that he has set for me. Didn't set out to be that way. It's just what happens as a natural part of the process. And you know, I do the same thing when I take somebody else on as a sponsor. I work with several people in this room. I've never told any of them what they had to do. Tell them what I do and make suggestions of things that might be helpful. But that's all it is suggestions. As far as the service work, the washing ashtrays and coffee cups and cleaning up the room and all that, I learned that by example of other alcoholics in Alcoholics Anonymous who were doing that at the beginning and the end of the meeting. So I'd always get there early. And I'd walk around the room and shake everybody's hand, those I knew and those who I didn't know. And when I'm in the bricks and mortar world today, I do the same thing. We had a little discussion, and I'm going to bring this into our virtual world. We're all in these little boxes, and most people keep it on speaker screen rather than gallery screen, so they don't see other people come into the room. But for those of us who are in leadership in this group, I gave a loving reminder tonight when we are in some deep conversation with somebody, when somebody else comes into the room, we need to stop that conversation and welcome whoever came into the room, so that those who are here feel welcomed in this group, so that they will come back, so that they will bring others, so that they feel welcome in this group. That's an important thing, absolutely important thing, because each and every one of you that is here has immense value to this meeting. Most of us, we don't live in the same state. Here's one of the things that I always say in bricks and mortar meetings, and boy do I chap some hides with it. If you only go to the same meeting with the same 10 people for years and years, that's all the more your sobriety will grow. And I'm not saying your sobriety doesn't grow, I'm saying that it becomes limited. But when you expose yourself to many people, you have incredible growth rate in your sobriety. And all of us have gone to people with in different states and all over the world. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. New York hasn't really figured out yet how to make the virtual world and the bricks and mortar world connect yet, but I believe that groups like this are the bridge to making both worlds connect. Because in this virtual world, we carry the message just as powerfully as any bricks and mortar meeting, sometimes even more so. We're always here open an hour early for fellowship before every meeting. Please come join us early. We want to get to know you. Not so we can whisper behind your back, but so that we can love you and we can embrace you. I see that smile, Kenny. And you know, the beautiful thing about it, this is how we've all become family. You see a few people with pickle names here. We are definitely family. And we spend time together in this room and in person. And what a beautiful thing it is. I'll touch on the reading a little bit because it's got so much in it, and then I'll kick it over to Lisa. Page 17 tells me two vitally important things to my recovery. First, that they have given me a fellowship, and that's what we are here tonight. But most importantly, that they have given me a spiritual program of recovery that is so spiritual in nature that it is not necessary for me to pick up the first string. The interesting thing is there's no place in our book where it says, Jamie, this is where you put the drink down, or Jamie, this is how you put the drink down. It just gives me a spiritual pathway, not a religious pathway, but a spiritual pathway. So that I don't have to pick up the first string. But all through our book, we can also see biblical principles, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're not a religious organization. We are a spiritual program of recovery. But I will touch on the very last line that was read. After such an approach, they may take up their beds and walk again. There's a biblical passage that refers to that. The man at the pool of Bethesda. And if you're interested in knowing what that story is, I would just encourage you to Google it and find out where it is in the Bible. The reason that I say that is because while we are not a religious program, our book does tell us on page 85 to be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. I'm grateful to be sober. I'm grateful that I didn't have a sponsor that told me I had to. Instead, he showed me how to walk, which is a huge difference in my life. Lisa, welcome. Come on in.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. I wanted to just thank you all for this opportunity. When it was first presented to me, I didn't want to do it. Just like when I asked someone to be my sponsor, I immediately regretted it. But, you know, it didn't take me long. I was grateful for the opportunity and what it's teaching me. You know, I'm looking at referring to this blue page and but the physical allergy, and it's not what drives us to AA. You know, That was a big problem for me because I had many long periods of time that I could stay sober, but I couldn't stay stopped, you know, and I never realized that the problem is this, that it centers in the mind. And, you know, reading this book and doing this study, you know, I'm learning about this disease I have. And, you know, and it's also teaching me how to start and build my relationship with my God, which is huge. I mean, I never did those two things. I didn't have a chance, and I had no idea. You know, that kept me in such denial because I could stop drinking for long periods of time. I didn't drink like him. He's a real alcoholic, you know. But I always had the reservation, whether it was holidays, beach time, birthday, anything, going to a concert, you know. The past year and a half, I haven't had those. You know, I don't have to fight them anymore. And it's all because of this book. And it's with the Zoom. I've been to a lot of meetings in my life, and it didn't work for me. I thank God for Zoom. Zoom brought me to an 11-step meeting, and from that meeting, I found this one, and I found you guys. And my life has changed. It's changing. I'm changing. The way I think and my perception, and I'm just really grateful, and thanks everybody.
Thanks, Lisa. And before you read us out, I want to make one quick comment about Zoom. You often hear people say in meetings, oh, you need to have an in-person sponsor. Well, that's not exactly true. There's plenty of Zoom babies who have never been to a bricks and mortar meeting and have gone on, taken the program, and gone on to sponsor and work with others. My sponsor and I moved away from my hometown at 2 years sober, and for decades before Zoom, we stayed in contact by phone and saw each other every once in a while. Here's the beauty of Zoom. You can open up a Zoom room and sit and talk face to face with each other and still have that eye-to-eye contact with one another, as where generally in the bricks and mortar world, we're like, okay, well, I'll meet you down at the meeting house an hour before the meeting and we'll get together and talk about it. And something always comes up. Somebody's always late, doesn't show up, or life just happens. The beauty of Zoom is we can do it any time at all, 24 hours a day. So please don't discount the power of the provision that God has given us. When they wrote the foreword to the 4th edition, in 2001, they had no idea how much power those words, modem to modem or face to face, AA speak the language of the heart with all its power and implicity. They had no idea. But yet here we are. So grateful you're all here. Lisa, would you like to read us out? And then we'll close out with the prayer.
From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Close with a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, thy will be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Stick around and talk.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Great